Humane raised more than $230 million for an AI pin that was supposed to replace your phone, then killed it less than a year after shipping. On February 28, 2025, the servers went dark, and the $699 device people had clipped to their shirts became mostly a battery indicator. HP bought the remains for $116 million, but the product itself did not survive the deal. That is the strange part of this story. Humane did not fail because nobody cared about AI. It failed during the loudest AI boom in tech history. It failed with former Apple talent, celebrity investors, runway hype, and a product category everyone wanted to believe in. So the question is not whether the idea was futuristic. The question is how a company could be early to the right trend and still build the wrong machine. Before this is over, you are going to see a startup with enough hype to get its device named one of time's best inventions before customers could actually use it. You are going to see reviewers discover a product that was slow, hot, expensive, and missing basic features. And you are going to see the real fatal flaw. Humane tried to remove the smartphone before it had earned the right to replace even one thing the smartphone does well. That is the lesson here. The AI pin was not just a bad gadget. It was a product strategy that confused a demo with a daily habit. Humane was founded by Imran Chaudhry and Bethany Bongiorno, two former Apple employees with the exact resume investors want to believe in. They had helped build products at the company that made the iPhone feel inevitable. So when they said the next interface might not be a phone at all, people listened. The pitch was clean. The phone had become too distracting. Apps had become too addictive. Screens had taken over modern life. Humane would make technology disappear into the background. With a small square AI device you clipped to your clothes. It had a camera, microphones, speakers, cellular service, AI models in the cloud, and a laser projector that could throw a tiny interface onto your palm. In theory, it sounded elegant. You would ask a question, get an answer, send a message, translate a sentence, take a photo, or identify something in the world without pulling out a phone. The computer would become ambient. The screen would disappear. And because the founders came from Apple, the pitch carried a dangerous extra layer. Maybe these people knew something everyone else had missed. The market rewarded the story before the product had to prove it. Humane raised more than $230 million from a roster that included names like Sam Altman and Mark Benioff. Reports put its private valuation far above the eventual sale price. Naomi Campbell wore the pin at Paris Fashion Week. The company showed the device in a TED Talk. It built the kind of mystique that makes investors feel like they are getting in before the next iPhone moment. Then the actual product terms arrived. The AI pin costs $699. Plus a required $24 monthly subscription. That meant Humane was not asking people to try a fun accessory. It was asking them to pay phone-level money for a device whose entire promise was that it might help them use their phone less. Which can work, but only if the replacement job is brutally clear. AirPods did not replace the phone. They made one part of the phone experience better. The Apple Watch did not replace the phone. It took a few high-frequency jobs, like notifications and fitness, and made them easier on the wrist. Humane skipped that step. It did not pick one job and dominate it. It tried to be the anti-phone. When the AI pin reached reviewers in April 2024, the story changed almost overnight. Marques Brownlee titled his review, "The Worst Product I've Ever Reviewed." For now, an SFGate later counted about 8.5 million views on that video. The Verge said it would take its phone back. Wired called the device too barebones to be useful. Reviewers kept landing on the same basic problem. The pin was not just limited. It was unreliable at the jobs it claimed were the whole point. It was slow. It answered incorrectly. It struggled with basic tasks. It overheated. The battery did not inspire confidence. The laser interface was clever in a demo and awkward in real life. And some features people would expect from a simple assistant, like basic timing and alarm functions, were either absent at launch or not good enough to justify the trade. Here is what made that brutal. A screenless device has almost no room to recover from failure. When a phone app gets something wrong, you can tap around, correct it, copy text, search again, open another app, or use the screen as a fallback. With the AI pin, the main interface was voice plus a tiny projected menu on your hand. If the cloud answer was slow or wrong, the whole experience collapsed into waiting. If you want more postmortems before the next hype cycle, subscribe. And that waiting mattered because Humane was selling speed and freedom. If the product makes you slower than the phone it is supposed to replace, the magic dies immediately. The deeper failure was not just battery life or reviews. Those were symptoms. The fatal architecture mistake was that Humane built a device around 3 loops it did not control. The first loop is capture. The device has to understand what you want through voice, camera, touch, or context. The pin could capture some of that, but not as naturally as a phone with a screen, keyboard, app state, location, notifications, and years of user muscle memory. The second loop is interpretation. The AI has to turn the messy real-world request into a useful answer. In 2024, that was still fragile. AI models were impressive, but they were not yet reliable personal agents that could understand every ambiguous request, use every app, and recover gracefully when they failed. The third loop is action. This is the killer. The assistant has to actually do the thing. Send the message, book the ride, change the reservation, pull the file, pay the bill, navigate the app. And those actions live inside the phone ecosystem, inside accounts, permissions, app APIs, screens, confirmations, and habits. Humane owned the pin. Apple and Google owned the environment. The phone owned the action layer. So the pin was forced into a narrow lane. Ask the cloud, speak and answer, maybe project a tiny menu, and hope that was enough. It was not enough. A consumer device does not win because it is conceptually cleaner. It wins because it removes friction from a job people already do. Humane removed the familiar interface before it had replaced the capability underneath it. The business signals turned ugly fast. Before the product had even shipped, Humane laid off 10 employees, about 4% of its workforce, and its CTO moved into an advisory role. After launch, returns reportedly began to outweigh new purchases between May and August 2024. The company recalled the charging case because of an overheating risk. Then came the buyer search. By February 2025, the ending was official. HP would pay $116 million for Humane software, staff, Cosmos platform, and more than 300 patents and patent applications. That is not nothing. There was real engineering value inside the company. But HP was not saving the AI pin as a consumer product. Customers were told the device would stop connecting to Humane's servers at noon Pacific time on February 28, 2025. Cloud features would disappear. AI answers, calling, messaging, cloud access, and related services. Users could download their stored data before the deadline. After that, the remaining offline feature was basically checking battery level. That is a rare kind of product death. A failed phone still makes calls if the network supports it. A failed camera still takes photos. A failed laptop still boots. But Humane had sold a cloud-dependent AI object with no durable offline core. When the company stopped operating the service, the hardware lost its reason to exist. It is easy to say Humane failed because the product was bad. That is true, but not useful enough. The more useful diagnosis is this. Humane tried to sell a new interface before it. Had a new behavior. The company assumed people wanted the phone to disappear. What people actually wanted was for specific phone jobs to get easier. Those are not the same thing. Replace my phone is a philosophical pitch. Let me capture a thought while walking, or summarize what I am looking at, or handle messages while my hands are full is a product job. One is a manifesto. The other is a habit. Humane started with the manifesto. That forced it to build everything at once. Custom hardware, cellular service, a new operating system, a cloud AI assistant, a laser interface, a developer platform, and a new consumer behavior. Any one of those is hard. All of them together are a trap. And because the pin was positioned against the smartphone, every comparison was unfair in the worst possible way. The phone had apps, speed, a screen, a keyboard, payments, maps, media, identity, contacts, fallback modes, and social gravity. The pin had ambition. Ambition is not an interface. The builder lesson is simple. If you are trying to replace an existing behavior, ask this first. What exact job becomes easier on day one? Not cooler, not more futuristic. Easier. If the answer is vague, you are probably building a demo. If the answer requires the customer to abandon a tool that already works, you are probably building a belief system. Humane saw the future direction of AI correctly. More ambient, more personal, less trapped inside rectangles. but it skipped the daily wedge that turns a future into a product. Postmortem finding. Humane did not lose because AI was too early. It lost because the product asked for a habit it had not earned. If you think the AI Pin was an expensive bet on changing phone behavior, wait until you see Quibi. Humane raised more than $230 million trying to make the phone disappear. Quibi raised $1.75 billion betting people wanted Hollywood built for the phone and still vanished in 6 months. That story is on the channel now, and the link is on screen.